The views, information, and opinions expressed during the following program are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent the views of Access Communications, its representatives, or its employees.
Good evening, everybody. This is Council for Monday, August the 15th, 2022. The Mayor will be back in a moment, but I'll call this meeting to order so we can get going on time. Are there any additions to the agenda?
No additions from administration tonight.
Anybody from Council have additions? No. I'll take a motion to approve the agenda then.
I'll make that motion, Your Worship.
I'll second that, Your Worship.
All those in favor? Carried unanimously. If everybody has read the minutes from the previous meeting, I'll take a motion to accept the minutes from the previous City Council meeting and the SPMP meeting that was held.
Your Worship, I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Second?
Your Worship, I'll second that motion.
All in favor? Thank you. All right. Is there- Just approve the minutes.
Okay. Thank you. Just delayed there for a minute. We're, as approval of the minutes, we'll move forward. Then we have additions to the agenda. And do we have also council? Any additions? No? No additions to the agenda. Moving forward, there's no public hearings and notices, delegations, proclamations, petitions, reports of standing committees. There's none. Consent agenda. We have the Building Department report for July, the Fire Department report for July, Public Works report for July, and the Water Treatment report for July. All of these can be found on our Weyburn City website. Do I have a motion, please?
Your Worship, I move that the items on the consent agenda be accepted as presented.
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Discussion? All in favor? Approved. Motions. Accounts payable. Do I have a motion, please?
Your Worship, I'll make a motion that the purchases in the amount of $1,150,116.96 from July 15th to August 5th, 2022 be passed for payment.
Your Worship, I'll second that motion.
Discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Urban Highway Connector Program Expression of Interest.
Yes, good evening. So this is for the Urban Highway Connector Program Expression of Interest for 2022. The City of Weyburn has provided an expression of interest for the Urban Highway Connector Program, UHCP, through the province of Saskatchewan. The Urban Highway Connector Program promotes safe and efficient movement of people and goods through Saskatchewan cities. It also provides an open and consistent framework to support the municipal management of urban highway connectors. Saskatchewan's 16 cities control urban highway connectors within their boundaries under provincial legislation and jurisdiction. These connectors are roadways connecting highways throughout the city. The Ministry of Highways and Infrastructure is requesting expression of interest that will identify priorities in each city for urban highway connector improvements. Any funding under the UHCP will be driven by the provincial budget process and completed with the Ministry of Highways and Infrastructure priorities. The City of Weyburn has identified 2 projects as a priority for the UHCP. Priority 1 is to mill down and repave 1st Avenue from Government Road to 10th Street. Priority 2 is to mill down and repave King Street from 1st Avenue to 5th Avenue North. Both these locations are part of our truck route and see a lot of heavy truck traffic. These areas are showing significant surface damage and have not had any major work done in the past 10 years. The city does a pothole patching program on both roads every year. We want to repair the surface before we see damage to the sub-base and base. Both areas are a level 3 in terms of our UHCP agreement and would receive up to 70% funding from the government of Saskatchewan. So I just have a couple maps in there kind of identifying the areas that we are looking at for the expression of interest. In order to move the expression of interest, the government of Saskatchewan requires a resolution stating City Council agrees to meet legislated standards to meet the terms and conditions of the UHCP program, to conduct an open tendering process, to manage the construction of the project, to fund the municipal share of the project, to fund ongoing operation and maintenance costs, and to provide any mitigation measures as required by the Federal Impact Assessment Act and the Environmental Assessment Act, Saskatchewan. It is a recommendation that Weyburn City Council provide the province of Saskatchewan with the required resolution for the UHCP expression of interest for both Priority 1 and Priority 2 projects.
Do I have a motion, please?
Yes, I do, Your Worship. Thanks, Jennifer. Make a motion that City Council supports the expression of interest to the province of Saskatchewan for the Urban Highway Connector Program to allow the following projects in order of priority for the City of Weyburn. Number 1, to mill down and repave 1st Avenue North, Highway 13, from Government Road to 10th Street, northeast. Number 2, to mill down and repave King Street, Highway 35, from 1st Avenue North to 5th Avenue North.
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Discussion? Go ahead, Laura, first.
Thank you, Your Worship. Jennifer, if we go ahead and submit this, does it tie us to any mandatory completion if some sort of government funding doesn't come through? I just didn't want to see the citizens of Weyburn on the hook for a $3 million project and we don't get any funding back from the government.
All these projects actually have to be under $500,000 when submitting them to this program. So we are not looking at massive things, and these would be done through our budget process, that we would have enough time through our budget process and would know based on their approval of their side of what they would give us for funding. So we would be able to budget through our process how much would actually be, but both projects are under $500,000.
Thank you.
Mr. Mickle?
Thank you, Your Worship. Your Worship, this is a fixed solution, but it's not, in my opinion, the proper solution, and I'll tell you why. This truck traffic that we're talking about should be reverted out of the City of Weyburn instead of encouraging that we keep having it here. We've met with government before, and there's a way to do that. It maybe wasn't their idea, so they didn't agree with it, but there's major traffic there each morning, and some of these vehicles do not drop anything off in Weyburn at all. They go right through at an increased speed. So by doing this, I struggle with saying yes to this one, because what you're doing, you haven't solved any problem about the truck route. We just keep saying that's fine. It is not fine. Things have to be changed.
The rebuttal I'll give you onto that one is that I've seen where the bypass was, and the bypass that they talked about went way around the city, as in Estevan, what has happened in Estevan. We'll point back to our city down there, and it goes way around, cuts out the businesses completely, cuts out everything. It becomes cuts out the city completely, and which is really good for, I guess, the trucks and that, but then also our businesses suffer. This is the best solution that we've got. We've got a lot of issues with our roads. I know people complain that our roads have really gone down, but we're tied to the urban, to the government for this urban. These are 2 cities, highways going through them. We have to wait for the government to give us money. Again, we wait with hat in hand, waiting for the government to give us money, and that's the best that we can do. We've got to keep up with it, and unfortunately, if you've got a house along the truck traffic, that's what happens on there. It's the thing. Mr.
Yes, I think I agree with both of you, and I think, Councillor Mickle, I think we have been in conversation with the province as far as the truck route. You know, where that is and how quickly it's going to move along is anybody's guess, so I think we do have to ask for help in repairing that road until the meantime, because it is getting worse and worse and worse, and it is a huge cost to the city. So I don't think we can wait for the government to respond to a truck route, helping us out with a truck route, although we need to continue to lobby for that direction.
Seeing no further comments, call the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Moving forward, introduction of bylaws. The zoning amendment, bylaw amendment, contract zone for the dog kennel. Who would, please?
Thank you, Your Worship. So a zoning bylaw amendment application from Cindy Ann on behalf of the owner Savannah Energy Services Corp. Has been received requesting that a contract zone be approved for 325 Queen Street. The contract zone is requested to allow for a kennel for commercial breeding or boarding purposes, and that would be the existing Fido's Doggy Daycare and Training Facility. It would allow for them to continue to operate. It's not an existing permitted use in the highway commercial zone for the property. The contract zone was previously approved in 2018, which has since expired, so the proponent is requesting a new contract to allow for the operation of the doggy daycare. Council gave first reading to the bylaw on July 18th of this year. Upon first reading, public notices were advertised in accordance with the city's public notice policy for the public hearing to occur today at the regular council meeting. No comments or concerns have been received. So the development proposal is for Fido's Doggy Daycare at 325 Queen Street to allow for a kennel at that location. The previous agreement was valid for 3 years and it was not renewed prior to the expiry, so a new contract zone is requested. The Doggy Daycare continues to operate at that location, so they require this amendment to continue those permissions. This contract would not expire unless the kennel ceases to operate at that location. So the zoning bylaw, the highway commercial zone is designed for uses serving the traveling public or requiring a high level of accessibility. They're typically located adjacent to major highways with controlled access service roads. The highway commercial zone allows for a variety of uses that are considered to be appropriate uses along major highways. It does not currently allow for a kennel for commercial breeding or boarding purposes. This use would be found in the light, medium, and heavy industrial zones as a discretionary use. The property is unique in that it's on the perimeter of the city with no neighboring properties directly abutting it. So there's minimal impact to the neighboring properties, specifically residential properties. So it'd be an appropriate use. The property is zoned highway commercial and it's also designated highway commercial in the official community plan. They're generally located adjacent to highways 35, 39, and 13, and uses that typically exist within highway commercial lands include convenience establishments. Additionally, they are used for businesses which require or strongly benefit from highway access and may require significant amounts of land. For example, automotive dealerships, motels, strip malls, service stations, restaurants, and food stores. The proposed contract zone is consistent with the OCP as the contract will allow for use to continue to operate, and the property is unique in that it does provide easy highway access and doesn't have any direct neighbors that could be impacted by noise or smell from the use. So it's consistent with the applicable policies of the official community plan. The Weyburn District Planning Commission has been given the opportunity to review the proposed bylaw amendment as the property is within a 500-meter radius of city limits. The District Planning Commission has no concerns with the bylaw and a letter was attached to the report. So Council's options tonight would be option number 1, that Council holds the public hearing for bylaw 2022 3446 and gives second and third reading to the bylaw, being a bylaw to amend the zoning bylaw to approve a contract zone for 325 Queen Street to add kennel for commercial breeding or boarding purposes as a permitted use, and that Council authorizes administration to enter into a contract zone agreement pursuant to said bylaw. Or option number 2 would be that Council refuses to give second reading to the bylaw and direct administration to advise the applicant of the refusal. The reasons for refusal would have to be provided tonight. So the staff recommendation would be that Council holds a public hearing and gives second and third reading to bylaw 2022 3446 to amend the zoning bylaw as mentioned above.
So with that, we would, which option do you wish to move forward with? Option or your public hearing? Yeah. So with that, public hearing is now opened. First call for public hearing. Second call for public hearing. Third call for anyone wishing to make a statement. So seeing no one making a statement, public hearing is closed. Do I have a motion for second reading, please?
Your Worship, I would move that bylaw 2022-3446, a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 2020-3412 to approve a contract zone for 325 Queen Street, be read a second time.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Call the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Third reading.
Your Worship, I would move that bylaw 2022-3446, a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 2020-3412 to approve a contract zone for 325 Queen Street, be read a third time and passed.
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Passed unanimously. Very good. Moving forward, bylaws 2022-3447 and bylaws 2022-3448, OCP and zoning amendment for 424 10th Avenue Southeast. Do we have Development Officer, please?
Thank you, Your Worship. So zoning bylaw amendment application and corresponding official community plan amendment application from Cedar and Vine Design, care of Joanne Beach, has been received, which is regarding the property at 424 10th Avenue Southeast. The request is to redesignate the property in the official community plan from the existing residential designation to a mixed-use designation, and that the property be rezoned from R2 residential semi-detached to DCD1, Signal Hill Heritage Mixed Use Direct Control District. These changes are requested to facilitate the development of several different commercial uses within the existing building, as well as a couple residential units. The property is located on 10th Avenue Southeast with the TC Douglas Center to the west, Heritage Village and Community Gardens to the south, and a church and residential to the north. I won't read the property legal description. The property recently went through a subdivision as part of the city's sale of the property in 2020. So if council proceeds with first reading of both bylaws at this meeting, then public notice will be sent out in accordance with the city's public notice policy for the public hearing to occur on September 12th at the regular council meeting. So the applicants have started to operate commercial businesses out of the building, which came to the attention of staff, at which point the applicants were advised the uses did not comply with the zoning for the property. So an OCP and zoning amendment process were initiated. Staff met with the applicants to review the development proposal of the various uses they had planned for the building to determine the best solution. The development proposal involves commercial uses on the first 3 floors, with studio space, retail, and potential coffee shop and/or similar uses. Cedar and Vine is the owner and one of the main tenants of the building, with studio space for sewing clothing. They're also proposing a couple of residential units within the building. Previously, there was a caretaker's unit in the rear addition, which is planned to be a rental unit. And the mixed-use designation was determined to be the best fit for the intended mix of uses at the property with commercial and residential. And the direct control district was determined to be the best option. To help facilitate the adaptive reuse of the property and help protect the heritage designation of the property. So I've included a map of where the property is located and an aerial image of what it looks like. So the official community plan, property currently has a residential land use designation in the OCP. The applicant is requesting that the lands be designated mixed use on the land use designation map of the OCP. The purpose of this designation is to provide for areas of transition from commercial to residential to allow for a combination of commercial, retail, professional, institutional, and residential land uses to exist side by side and or above one another. The mixed use designation is currently used in the area surrounding the central business district. However, the subject property is a bit unique in that the surrounding area is designated residential and parks and open space. However, few of the properties in the immediate area are used as traditional residential uses. There's a church to the north, TC Douglas Center and Water Tower to the west, as well as Access Communications, and Heritage Village and Community Gardens to the south. Some of these uses fit into both residential zones, as well as they would be considered institutional uses and would also be considered in the commercial zones. The property has been used since the 1980s as a community recreation facility operated by the city with an art gallery and art studios, and was a nursing home and prior to the city's operation of the facility. And it was a hospital at one point, so it's always been used as non-residential uses. The mixed-use designation reflects the transitional character of the surrounding area and respects the existing residential. So there's what the OCP designation map currently looks like. The proposal is consistent with the statements of provincial interest, and that the redesignation encourages opportunities for the reuse and preservation of a historic building. The proposal is also consistent with 6.15.1 of the SPIs in that it contributes to a complete community by providing smaller scale commercial in an area where there's little access to neighborhood commercial uses. The property is currently zoned R2, residential semi-detached, which allows for detached, semi-detached, and duplexes, as well as low-rise residential and some institutional uses. The applicant has requested that the land be rezoned to a mixed-use zone. However, the existing mixed-use zone did not allow for some of the uses in the applicant's development proposal. And since the constraints of the existing building and the heritage designation, it was best to create a separate direct control district that would only apply to that property. So the DCD1 zone was developed in consultation with the applicant and is similar to the neighborhood commercial and mixed-use zones with some site-specific requirements for the heritage designation. So I've included what the proposed use table of the zone is, excuse me. And it includes a variety of uses that they are looking at putting in there. And then the zoning bylaw map and what the surrounding area looks like on that map. So the direct control district will help facilitate the development proposal with studios, art gallery, retail, and restaurant or cafe space, while being compatible in scale with the surrounding residential zoning. Property is a municipal heritage property, which comes with requirements for alterations to be approved by the city prior to being undertaken, which is reflected in the DCD1 zone. The zoning helps facilitate the adaptive reuse of the building for future purposes and preservation. Development permits will still need to be obtained by the applicant following the rezoning to ensure compliance with the zoning bylaw for all uses in the building. So if council gives first reading to both bylaws at this meeting, then staff will bring the bylaw forward to the next district planning commission meeting for input. And then official community plan amendments must be approved by the Minister of Government Relations. So upon final reading of bylaw 2022-3447, it will be submitted to the province for ministerial approval. And both bylaws would take effect upon that approval. So the options for tonight, council gives first reading to bylaw 2022-3447, being a bylaw to amend the official community plan to designate the above-mentioned lands as mixed use on the land use designation map, and that council gives first reading to bylaw 2022-3448, being a bylaw to amend the zoning bylaw to rezone the above-mentioned lands from R2 to DCD1, and that council directs administration to advertise both bylaws as per the public notice policy. Option number 2 would be that council refuse to give first reading to the bylaws and direct administration to advise the applicant of the refusal, and the reasons would have to be provided. So the staff recommendation would be that option number 1, the council gives first reading to both bylaws to amend the official community plan and zoning bylaw as mentioned above. Also, the applicants are here tonight, so if council has questions of them, you can ask those of the applicants.
Do we have a motion, please?
Your Worship, I have the motion that, I'd like to make the motion that bylaw 2022-3447, being a bylaw to amend the official community plan bylaw 2020-3411 to incorporate and include in the land use designation map for parcel 203838330, Block E, Plan 102349920, from residential to mixed use, be read a first time, and further that bylaw 2022-3447 be advertised as per the City of Weyburn Public Notice Policy.
Second?
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Discussion? Questions of the applicants? Seeing none? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Do you have a second motion, please?
And I will just keep going. I'd like to make the motion that bylaw 2022-3448, a bylaw to amend the zoning bylaw 2020-3412 to rezone parcel 203838330, Block E, Plan 102349920, from R2 to DCD1, the Signal Hill Heritage Mixed Use Direct Control District, be read for a first time, and further that bylaw 2022-3448 be advertised as per the City of Weyburn Public Notice Policy.
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Discussion? Again, questions to the applicants? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Passed for the first reading. We'll then have, it'll come back, and there'll be a public notice, as you saw, like we did earlier, and the second and third reading. And that will be within, what meeting will that be at, Janine?
September 12th.
September 12th. Okay. Thank you for your attendance tonight. There's no unfinished business. New business, home-based business application for Scott Crescent, Development Officer. Again, please.
Okay, you're gonna have to bear with me here. So an application has been received from Deirdre Cameron to operate a personal service business, a massage therapy business, out of their residence at 4 Scott Crescent. It's located in the R1 zone. The business will operate Sunday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. This would be considered a controversial use as the business involves clients being directed to the home throughout the day. The applicant anticipates a minimal traffic increase with one client attending the home at a time, and parking is available on the driveway. The zoning bylaw requires that controversial home-based businesses, which involve clients attending the home, go through the neighborhood notice process and receive council approval. Neighborhood notices were mailed out on August 4th to all neighbors within a 50-meter radius of the applicant's home. Residents receiving the notice were given the opportunity to comment on the application. No concerns or objections were received. So there's a map of where this property is located. Home-based businesses are permitted use in the zoning bylaw, meaning that landowners have the right to undertake the use in accordance with the bylaw, unless provisions of the bylaw are specifically contravened. They must generally meet the following provisions: be incidental to the use of the premise as a residence, be compatible with residential uses, be limited in extent in terms of volume of materials sold and number of clients, not substantially increase the volume of traffic, and not detract from the residential character of the zone. The use identified would be considered a controversial occupation under section 5.1.19 of the zoning bylaw, as clients will be directed to the home. Staff have reviewed the application and are of the opinion that the home-based business application meets the requirements of the zoning bylaw. Therefore, they are recommending option number 1 to council. Option number 1 would be that council approves home-based business permit 2022.012 at 4 Scott Crescent, subject to the following conditions. No person other than a resident of the dwelling unit shall be engaged in the home-based business as an employee or volunteer. No advertisement carrying the address of the dwelling in which the home-based business occurs may be placed in any media. The home-based business shall not occupy more than 25% of the gross floor area of the dwelling unit. The face of any home-based business sign on site must not exceed 0.092 square meters and must be placed within the inside half of the front yard setback. This permit is only valid for the above address and is non-transferable to another address. Reapplication will be required if the business moves locations. Home-based businesses are subject to periodic review to ensure compliance. The owner's driveway shall be used for off-street parking of clients. and a City of Weyburn business license shall be obtained prior to the operation of the business. Option number 2 would be the refusal of the home-based business permit, and the reasons would have to be provided tonight. That's my recommendation.
Do you have a motion, please? Do I have a motion, please?
Your worship, I'll make a motion that council accept option number 1. Approve that.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Very good. Inquiries and announcements. Anything? I guess it was just basically I hope everyone had a good summer. We had heard there was a bit of hail last night. We were very unfortunate on that to the people that had that there. Hopefully the crops will start coming off soon, and there'll be a good crop year around here on it. School is coming in soon. When is that? 1st of September. We'll be having school, everything. The pool will be closed when, Andrew?
The the outdoor season, I believe we're closed August 28th, and then we'll have a 2-week shutdown before the indoor pool opens for this season.
And already the ice plant, the hockey is open and the rinks are going?
Yeah, so we had the ice installed and in use by August 8th this year. So we have hockey camps going out throughout the month of August, and then the more regular programming will start in the last weekend of August.
And all city streets and such will be wrapped up fairly shortly on their engineer?
We still have some asphalting that needs to be done at the airport, as well as we will be doing some crack sealing in the fall. We just need those cracks to it needs to be a little colder and them to open back up. So we'll be doing a crack sealing program in the fall.
And things are getting all set for the winter season. I'll dare say that word, the winter snow season, but we have to get ready to start preparing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll start transitioning the crews over to start preparing for snow that will eventually come.
I know at 30 above and 32 above, you're not really thinking, but we have to get ready. We spend all year preparing for winter, as far as just getting hay and everything else up. Anything else? Our next meeting, for me?
The next meeting will be September 12th. We'll be back to our regular schedule of 2nd and 4th Mondays, so September 12th.
That's right. And again, anybody that wishing to put forth, come to council, make sure you're a week will be ahead of time to our city clerk for anything if they want to be on our next agenda. With that being said, there's no notice of motion, and so I will call for an adjournment.